Hey, it's Drybear. PAX East is closing in this weekend. They're even teasing stuff on Twitter, just like the hype up for PAX East. So we'll have Sunday to figure out what it is they're going to show us for the dev live stream. And we're nearing the end of the Q&A. We just have a little bit to go, and so we'll just keep pushing until we finish all the official dev responses. Starting with this question, it's not a dev response, it's the actual question itself, and it reads mostly just around the Academy skins that were released. And I'm curious what people think about this, because I think there's pros and cons to both approaches. And the gist of this is just around the Academy skins. While there are a unique skin for all of the female characters in the game, there's kind of like three base types, like the banner or the ascot, then there's like the sweater vest or whatever on top, and there's like one other type. And really it's just kind of like small rigid body changes or color changes on those three variants. So it's not like it's like there's really is only three Academy skins. They're just small changes and variations. And so someone on the Q&A was just, you know, not really very happy with the presentation of the Academy skins, saying I was looking forward to it because they'd all be different designs, but realistically there's only three base designs with small variations. Would it be possible to tell them apart if I dye them a little? Maybe, maybe not. Even if you don't like the design of the last swimsuit, I bought them all and was very satisfied because it definitely brought out the feeling of each individual skin, whereas they don't feel like that was the case with this particular set of skins. Which prompted this response: I'm sorry that didn't meet your expectations. We'll monitor the response to the new school uniform skins after the update and work hard to improve satisfaction with future skins. You have some people commenting on the fact that there were some other themed skins, like more holidays, even especially with the Easter holiday having a bunny skin that is more, you know, bunny related coming out. This one was pretty popular on Reddit and one of the messaging boards as well, which is kind of like a 3D render of what a skin for bunny could look like. So there's definitely people that still have an appetite for cosmetics for the game. So hopefully that they're able to continue to deliver on that as they move forward. You even have some people asking for even more customization options, like this question that was like, hey, can we get a customization option to hide or show the like Android cybernetic attachment for Sharen's chin and jaw specifically, since obviously, you know, if you watch the original trailer and listen to Sharen's story, she was actually, you know, a quadriplegic. She had both of her arms and legs cut off, and then she had a cybernetic body replaced and attached. So she's, you know, like 52% flesh and 48% metal, you know what I mean? And so a lot of people have commented on the fact that Sharen specifically has, like, regardless of her skin and presentation, most of the time she has the android lines and the cybernetic pieces, and then she has the jaw piece. So people asking to be able to remove that or hide that. Personally, for me, I think that I'm in favor of not trying to homogenize any more than the game already does. I feel like there's definitely, even now, an issue where if you like remove the default look of a character and you just show like their face and their properties and proportions, I do think it's actually quite hard to tell the characters apart. In TFD, they're all about the same height. They have very similar proportions, more or less, with some characters having slightly different, like SEMO or Haley being outside of the normal setup. But I personally think that Sharen's backstory and her being an android or, you know, partially cybernetic is a big part of her character and something I wouldn't want to change. But let me know what you guys think about this, especially, you know, going now, is a lot of people say that cosmetics is not what the game needs. The game actually needs more end game content. And by the way, yes, I'm dying on purpose. I'm farming the red vouchers right now by trying to kill more of the bosses. So this is not is part of it. Next is a big one, response to kind of like all the thoughts on, like, you know, movement speed and in character diversity and gameplay options, things like that. Director, they were asked about, like, you know, what are you guys gonna, how are you responding to all these questions around how fast the Descendants go, the balance, that sort of thing. And the director responds with, we received a large number of suggestions related to movement speed during the recent AMA. While we can't respond to every individual question, we gathered the feedback and held a meeting with the relevant team. As a result, we've decided to review the following areas. So these are officially being, you know, put on the calendar and reviewed within the internal teams. 1, Bunny's speed of light skill movement speed. So whether that can exceed the maximum cap or if that needs to be part of her identity. I asked this in a recent video, and I think a lot of people said that, yes, it would be great if Bunny could be faster than everybody, but we've already experienced this, that there were many gameplay issues with her being way faster than everybody. It just became like she was the go-to farmer because of that. So, you know, do we really want to revisit those issues? 2, the maximum sprint speed cap. This could create a lot of problems, and just so you know, the faster you go, the more likelihood, the higher likelihood of server desyncs, right? So you get server corrected a lot more the faster you are, because the faster you are, the more likely the server and the client don't agree on where you're supposed to be overall. And anytime the client is somewhere that the server says you can't be, it will server correct you to where you're supposed to be on the server. And that's what that, you know, when you teleport or lag jump, that's the server correcting your location. Like, your client is now off where you're supposed to be. You can't be there. You're moving too fast, and it's going to server correct you or teleport you. It's going to, you know, rubber band you to where you're supposed to be. Third, skills with fixed movement speed increase value. So like just like a flat value versus not. And even there was a question yesterday around like the negative status effects, like negative movement speed on some things as well. So they're looking at the maximum sprint speed cap for all characters, speed of light, movement speed for Bunny, as well as skills with fixed movement speed increase values. Haley was designed as a Descendant with lower mobility but high damage potential. Instead of removing her movement speed penalty outright, we will first review whether she is performing appropriately within that concept. Personally for me, and I will admit this is a subjective gripe, I wish they would take away the knockback that Haley has when she fires Zenith. While I think it's very cool and it feels heavy and impactful when she's locked in place and firing her sniper rifle, and it pushes her back a little bit, I think it creates a lot of issues where if you were to get up on a tall sniper post, if you fire a couple times, you will fall off the sniper post. It also pushes your camera into walls. It shoves you into enemies and gets you into really awkward positions when you root yourself in place, fire the sniper rifle, and it just keeps pushing you backwards. Rather than messing with the slow that she has on her power up, which when it's fully maxed out is an insane power boost, I'd much rather them like remove the knockback from her rooted in place ability that she can't control where she's going. Next is one that didn't get manually translated in the Q&A, but I will summarize it for you. They're basically, you know, and a background as a dev as well. The question was, hey man, some of these issues have been brought up over long periods of time. Why haven't you fixed them yet? And the production director mentions that it doesn't quite work like that. And one thing that I can kind of at least share some insight on, having been a developer for the better part of a decade before, is that realistically, you know, you have different environments. You have your dev environment, you have your staging environment, which is usually like a public test realm or something like that. Then you have your live environment, and you'll take changes, and you know, you'll version control them in each environment, push them to a new environment and test them there, make sure they're working, then push them to the final environment and that sort of thing. However, there are plenty of issues that come up that are observable but not reproducible. And what I mean by that is, you can get a clip from a player that is saying like, hey, this problem is happening. And then that it'll get sent to QA, and then QA won't be able to reproduce it, which means that they can't make the same thing happen on a dev environment. Like they can't even do it on live. Like no matter what, they can see that there's proof of it happening, but they can't figure out the steps required to recreate it. That's why it's very important that when you push out, when you like give bug reports, try to give the steps that you did right before it happened, because it helps quality assurance actually reproduce it. And realistically, I will tell you flat out, if there are no reproducible steps for a bug or issue, there is zero chance of that bug or issue being fixed. If you can't reproduce it, you can't fix it. That's just the truth of it. Now, there are some cases where you have insanely talented, you know, engineers or programmers or developers that are like, can kind of figure out what might be happening there. But realistically, if they can't recreate that problem, it's not something that can be solved. And that does happen in any game. Like any game that's ever been created, there are plenty of issues that, yeah, we know that happens, we don't know how to reproduce it, and so if we can't reproduce it, we can't fix it. And that's all that the production director is saying here, is that yes, you know, we share these ideas, but until we can actually understand what's happening and why, it becomes nearly impossible for us to fix it. So just a little bit of background on game dev and that sort of thing. Sometimes you just have these issues persist, and this is probably, you can probably, if you sat down and thought about it, you can think about tons of games that have this. Your favorite game that's been running for a very long time, enter any age-old live service game. There's probably been like problems that have existed for very long periods of time, and the reason that they haven't been fixed is either they can't be fixed or it's too expensive to fix them, like it would require a complete overhaul of a major system, or it's an issue that exists in a very niche set of circumstances that they just can't figure out how to reproduce, so they can't figure out how to fix it. Next is a short question, but a pretty interesting one. People have been asking, like, currently right now, the only way you can get to the Arche tuning EXP boosters is by doing the relic exchange in front of the ship on the dock. So they asked, hey, can we get Arche tuning as a drop from events or battle passes or bonuses or whatever? And they just directly confirmed that yes, Arche tuning EXP boosters will be made available through future event rewards and other various means. It was just kind of like a new addition for this, and they added in as an option to exchange the relics. But other than that, they do plan to make it more readily available in the future. Up next is an interesting one, and I'm curious to hear what your opinion is on this. But the question was like, hey, currently in order to get the analyzers and also to get the like blueprints and materials that we need from the new Sugma, we have to do normal and high risk. Like the rewards are spread out between the two difficulties. And the question was like, hey, if I'm a veteran player, why do I even have to do the normal difficulty at all, knowing that I'm getting overall less rewards and result, but I have to do it because of the recipes and the blueprints and items that come from that as well. So could we get it so that everyone can just farm all the materials from the highest difficulty possible? And the response from the director was, we originally distributed blueprints between normal and high risk sectors to prevent dilution of drop chances. So if everything was coming from the drop of like the end of like isolated or whatever like that, it would just be much harder to get the specific one you wanted because they would all be weighted across each other over the same loot pool. So that's why they originally did it. Since more available drops can lower the odds of getting the one the player wants. However, we agree that for veteran players, being able to farm everything in high risk sectors would provide a better experience. We'll make adjustments accordingly. And let me know what you think about this. Would you like to have a more evenly distributed drop chance from the waiting pool and have to go do lower difficulty with less rewards to get the drops you want? Or would you like to have a different system, or even just have everything drop from the highest difficulty possible? Let me know what you think about this one. Next, the production director had this wasn't like prompted by a question. It was like kind of like a response to many questions that came up around the same idea. He's just talking about like having parts and pieces for these skins, like being able to separate chest from legs, like if you wanted to have a skirt with like armor piece on top or whatever it is, or you want to split out different item pieces. People have been talking about customization. We even talked about a little bit earlier having different options for those customizations. So the production director just kind of like, after hearing the same questions over and over, just put out a post. It was a very long one, so this is like the Google translated. Hopefully it kind of gets close to it. So let's look at what he wanted to remind everyone about when it comes to the cosmetics. Just one thing I'd like to say, among the many questions you've asked, there was a request to further segment the customization area, to segment the current skin from the head and body to include accessories such as tops and bottoms, hats and sunglasses. I've stated my position on this several times in the past, so I didn't get my opinion this time, but I'd like to say it again in order to maintain our identity as a character game, not an avatar-centered MMO. Costumes are currently in the right direction, so he doesn't plan to make any changes on the way they handle cosmetics right now from a fundamental level. The direction that was reinforced after that was to respond to the higher than expected interest in dyeing and to comprehensively improve the dyeing area and to organize the common skin, create more skins, and increase skin satisfaction. That's a sentence. As the most important values, and we have carried out the update up to now. So adding more dye options, they did actually deliver on that. That is already in the game. There's more sockets and different areas to dye on the skins as well. I think there's still more room for improvement in this area. So the customization system, which has to completely reorganize and current structure, such as separating the top and bottom shoes, is highly, I am not trying to do that. He doesn't want to do it. And since the number of costumes required for new features and collaborations will continue to increase in the future, I find it difficult to think of it as an efficient task from my perspective. I think that the controlling attachments such as Serena's wings and Ultimate Freya's mask, which have been issues so far, is ultimately necessary, and I'd like to review this in the long term. Thanks for the understanding, Descendants. So the big thing there is like, yeah, there was big outcry for having Ultimate Freya without her mask. Obviously, Serena has a a one-of-a-kind attachment that's part of her core character that some people may not like, especially with certain skins, like having those wings show up on some of the more real-life modern fashion skins seems kind of out of place, so they are adding options for that. They already said they're working on a toggleable option for Serena's wings if you wanted, and they did offer a separate Freyna skin that didn't have the face mask on it, even though all the Ultimate Descendants had a helmet, like a Daft Punk style helmet for that as well. So he just wanted to reiterate that. Just keep in mind that if they start, as they start adding more characters, more skins, more options, these kind of systems can be extremely bloated over time. So that's their answer on that front. They don't plan to do individual, like very specific parts and pieces system where you can control like attachments like earrings and sunglasses and buck teeth and shoelaces and stuff like that. They want to have, there's a headpiece, there's a body piece, and you can customize and dye different parts if you'd like, but they don't want to make it more complicated and thus more heavyweight than it already is. And that's where we'll leave it today. A lot of discussions around fundamental systems and cosmetics specifically. I definitely am of the opinion that the gameplay has to come first, but I think that some of these discussions are at least interesting to talk about, and hopefully you feel the same. But let me know what you think about the discussions from today. If you found value in today's video, leave a like down below, leave a comment for the algorithm to help this video get seen by more people, and don't forget to check out my other channels for other content and other stuff and other things.